Cali Craze podcast show.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, supporting the show, blessing us with your presence, your comments, and your feedback on the show, man. Once again, the show is available on Spotify, YouTube, and I'm doing what I can to make it go to more different platforms, I'm going to tell y'all who I am, because a lot of y'all probably don't know who I am. You know what I'm saying? My name is Lil Keyco, you know what I mean? But some people know me by Lil Keyco a.k.a. Sweet Lou, Lil Keyco or Sweet Lou, I'm from San Diego, I grew up in the dip, on Logan Avenue, you feel me? 1984, you feel me? So I felt like I need to tell people who I am and a little bit about my background as a young man, So, I grew up on Logan Avenue back in the 80s, you know what I mean? That's when they had Sendo Mob, they was green lighting niggas and shit like that. For those of you who don't know what green lighting is, you come through the dip, tripping or out of pocket, out of bounds. And they yell green light, you know what I'm saying? And when you hear that green light, it's niggas and bitches coming from everywhere to fuck your ass up, excuse my language. But that's some of my early memories of living in San Diego, you know what I'm saying? I went to Knox, Valencia Park, elementary school, I lived on Santa Margarita Hill, me, Spook Nitty, Black Bleezy, and a lot of other people, my household was filled up with domestic violence, drug use, moms and step pops smoking crack, you know what I mean? Even broken radio antennas, TV antennas everywhere. At the time I didn't know what it was, I'm just trying to figure out, what's going on. I'm used to domestic violence. That happened every single weekend. Moms and them get drunk, smoking, getting high, then get to arguing with each other and fighting. Next thing you know, I'm getting woke up, the police at the door. This went on for years and years and years and years. So, those type of things affect individuals in the lives that they live, But yeah, the constant drinking, you know what I'm saying? Popos out the house, moms calling step pops a bitch and hoe and this and dirty dick nigga and all this type of shit like that, excuse my language, So growing up in Southeast, there's a lot of behaviors that I was taught, and a lot of these behaviors aren't conducive to becoming a great individual in life, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of these behaviors will save your ass from getting your head blown off, But at the same time, when it comes to society and establishing things and having a great quality of life, a lot of things I gotta put behind me, you know what I'm saying? It's still a part of me, but it doesn't work when you're trying to build. When you're trying to be an entrepreneur and you're trying to go to the top and you're trying to bubble like fried bologna and come up like an elevator, certain shit, just ain't gonna be cool. So, at the age of 1, my mom's was putting Night Train and Thunderbird in my baby bottle. So that's what I was sipping on when I was 1. So, to a young brother like that's growing up and he's 1 and he's already becoming trained to drink alcohol and it's in the system, the DNA and all that type of stuff like that, it's a blessing that I'm here once again, you know what I'm saying? Because those are habits that can affect me, from 1 to now, you know? And it ain't like I ain't drank 40 ounces, Old English, Thunderbird, Wild Irish Rose, Mad Dog, all that good shit, Henny, E&J, you know, from the good shit to the bottom of the barrel shit. But that's me, you know what I'm saying? And that's how I grew up, you know? Moms didn't partied a lot, you know? So, you know, the baby alcoholic, that was me, you know? So, statistically, you know, I'm supposed to be in prison for the rest of my life. Statistically, I was supposed to be caught up in a lot of gang violence, you know what I mean? Dead, you know, because that's the type of shit that happens when you grow up with these learned behaviors. You start to take on these personas of the things that you have experienced, you know, and that's why I have to think critically today and reflect on the choices that I make, so I do not end up in prison, getting pimped by the system, you know, working for, you know, 75 cents a day, you know, on the yard, on the rock crew, like I was 17 years ago, you know. Yeah, I went to prison. You know, probation violations, some crimes that led me to prison, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I found the big ass book called How to Start Your Own Record Company, you know? And what I did was I copied every single page in that book, you know, in prison. It took me 6 months to write every single word down on one of them yellow notepads. So I really had a passion for music. I've been doing music for a long time, you know, and now I license music to YouTube, to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, all those good things, and distribute the music and register the music. My publishing is Hard Life Productions, you know, Own One Records, you feel me? So, you know, if you get a chance, go check out the music. Lil Keyco. Music's under that, and the music's under Lil Keyco a.k.a. Sweet Lou on all major streaming music platforms. So, you know, and now I done created a podcast show so I can inspire people and tell my story, man, and come up with more ways to become this entrepreneur that I want to be. So yeah, you know, it's a blessing for me to have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding that I have, you know, and be able to share it and be a walking example of somebody who made it through the trenches, you know, and still I have to have integrity, you know, and walk with my head up in the air, you know. I'm developing a clothing company. This is my clothing company, Fresh to Death Clothing, Inspiration in Motion, you know. So, you know, a nigga like me can't afford to lose. I cannot afford to be a comfortable failure or an uncomfortable failure, you know. I'm one conscious decision away from making a bad decision. So I have to always reflect and check myself and make sure that I pay attention to my environment. I pay attention to those that I am surrounded around, you know, that's surrounding me, you feel me? Because everybody don't want to see Lil Keyco a.k.a. Sweet Lou come up. Everybody don't want to participate in being successful, you know? So it's very, very important for me to be around people that's conducive to helping me succeed and me helping them succeed. You know what I'm saying? Birds of a feather flock together. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hang with the winners, the people who win it. So, you know, so I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I'm supposed to be incarcerated, you know? So growing up in Southeast, East Dago, you know, I went to Horseman Middle School. I went to Crawford. You know, I have plenty of friends and family that are affiliated with gangs, that have lost their lives for gang banging, lost their lives from violence in the streets, senseless violence, you know. A lot of people lost their lives for just not eating healthy. So it's real important to pay attention to how you're living, what you're doing, and all those type of things like that. Right now, you know, I'm going to school to be a sociology professor. You know, I'm a very well-rounded individual. I grew up in Compton and Long Beach too, during the summers as a teenager, you know, and I've always went back and forth because I got a lot of family out there, So, yeah, I'm associated with these gangbangers, Bloods, Crips, prostitutes, drug addicts, because that's who I know. And I know other people too. I know scholars, I know people that went to college, doctors that's in my family and stuff like that. But a majority of them are drug addicts in my immediate family, and alcoholics and prostitutes and gangbangers and all that type of shit. So it's easy to get caught up in that learned behavior that I was taught as a young child, and a teenager and growing up. So, but do I gangbang? Nah, I don't gangbang. That ain't for me. You feel me? But if I'm around somebody and I'm with somebody, then I got that person's back to the fullest. If we in something together, you know what I'm saying? We gonna go through whatever we going through together. It ain't no running, it ain't no bitching down and all that type of shit. So it doesn't matter who I'm with, a nerd, if that's my partner or she's my homegirl, you feel me? We in this shit together. So at the end of the day, gangbanging or whatever they represent doesn't really matter at the time. When I'm with somebody, I'm with them, and we together and we riding together, you feel me? So that's just how I am. So, drugs, gangs, prostitutes, pimps, you name it, I've mostly been around it. So I'm a well-rounded individual, you know what I mean? I even grew up on the West Bank in New Orleans too, you know what I'm saying, in the 2000s, you know what I'm saying? So I experienced poverty. I've lived poverty. I've seen poverty, I grew up eating spaghetti sticks, you know what I'm saying? I ain't never met my pops. You know what I'm saying? So that's another half of me that's missing from this equation that you see right now. You know what I'm saying? So does it make it better? Does it make me stronger? Does it make me less effective? I don't know. But that's just a part of the story that I'm presenting, Cereal? Nigga, wasn't no cereal. Cereal didn't exist. Breakfast was leftovers. Nigga, and dinner was leftovers. So nigga, beans was for breakfast, which them same beans was for dinner. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up on liver and rice back in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Today my job is to inspire you and make you realize your potential, man, without taking L's. And L after L after L after L. You know what I'm saying? Loss after loss after loss. That is unproductive, and that's not conducive to being successful, whatever you consider successful. But everybody has their own definition. But for me, taking L's is not conducive to me becoming successful. You know what I'm saying? You can't be paying a high price to live a low quality life. You know what I'm saying? So we all got to step our game up, and become educated, in whatever we want to do. Ain't nothing come to sleepers but dreams. You know what I'm saying? You got to put in that work. You got to put in effort. You got to have a plan. You need a roadmap so you don't get distracted when bullshit coming your way. And you need to think critically so you can see the bullshit when it comes in your direction, and like, damn, this nigga got a gang of shit to say, but how are you gonna make this shit happen? Well, same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. I'm gonna accomplish my goals one step at a time. You know what I'm saying? The main goal is not to continue to lay down and get stepped on. Get back up if you fall. Despite what happens, I might slow down, but I ain't gonna give up. I'm gonna associate myself with like-minded individuals, people with drive, dedication, humbleness, willingness. You know what I'm saying? I cannot afford to be a comfortable failure or an uncomfortable failure, So I gotta keep taking these positive steps in directions that's gonna result in the outcomes that I want, So, the world doesn't dictate my success or your success. I dictate my own success, I create the definition of what I think success is. And what I think success is infinity. So you continue to create goals and you continue to accomplish goals. And after that goal, you accomplish more and accomplish more and more and more. Success just keeps going and going and going. It's infinity. There is no ceiling to success, you know? So I know too many people that aren't successful because they don't associate themselves around successful people, you know? So I'm not okay with sleeping on the freeway. You know, the Lord God Almighty created me to be a great man, and I got to remember that, and I got to project that every day that I get up. So I got to have integrity. You know what I'm saying? I got to keep my head on straight. I got to pay attention. I'm not perfect, but I got to make it happen by any means without stepping on the next man or woman's toes. So, you know, if you're listening or watching this show, you blessed. You know what I'm saying? Use your mind to manifest the life you want. Set your goals, set boundaries, and let your light shine so that men and women all over the world know that you from God. That's what you are. In a perfect sense, when you let go of the bullshit. So, you know, that's what I'm about. I'm Lil Keyco a.k.a. Sweet Lou, you know what I'm saying? And this is the Cali Craze podcast show.
Western Hemisphere, it's Cali Shay in here. This my introduction. Play this at the function. Let's talk about it. She all about it. We out here living dreams. It's everything it seems. Always on the grind. You know I gotta shine. Out here getting mines. Penny, nickels, and dimes. You better watch your step. I'm one of the last left. Slaying in the sand. I'ma stack them bands. Rising to the top, the ambition never stops. Cali living, Cali winning, you know I'ma make it pop.
Low riders, west siders, slide on Dayton wires. All you smell is fire, niggas still trying to get higher. Packing twos, no pliers, they selling dreams, they liars. Jacobian Myers, across the border are weakened pliers. I'm from the Western Hemisphere, spitting in your ear. I'm looking at money when I look in the mirror. We from the Western Hemisphere, we spinning your ear. We looking at money when we look in the mirror.